Ohio State must handle Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate's injuries the correct way. They must stay patient, keep them involved, and avoid any setbacks.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we will discuss a certain statement that Brandon Ennis made about Ryan Day, as well as if Ryan Day is leaning into load management to prepare for the game against Michigan. But before we get to any of that, we got to bring in one of my guys for today's show. There was a request via an everydayer on YouTube to discuss have more shows about Michigan. The game's in a couple of weeks. There's a senior day game against Rutgers on Saturday. Everyone's expecting Ohio State to blow them out. So we're just going to ramp up our conversation about Michigan starting today. And on today's show, many of you watching YouTube see his face. It's my guy, Mo Murphy, the Coach Mo Murphy, as they call him. And I'm glad Mo is here because my voice is about to be gone, bro. I told you I got a little cold. I've been coughing a little bit. But on Saturday, we got to witness something that wasn't normal. Carnell Tate didn't play. Jeremiah Smith was banged up, listed as questionable, played a little bit, but people saw him hobbling around on the sideline, hobbling as he was going up a ramp in the stadium. And Ryan Day needs to make sure that he handles these injuries the correct way. Now, maybe if it is sitting them out, sit them out. I'm not a big fan. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm not a big fan of some of the things people have said about these players, but you got to make sure you handle these guys the right way. Listen to the doctors and make sure that you're not having an Njigba or an Egbuka situation once again, because if you do something wrong, you don't follow the doctor's advice, you could lose one of your top receivers for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Jay. You do got to handle injuries or guys being hurt this late in the season. You know, there's a difference between being injured and being hurt. And obviously, like Jeremiah Smith, just a little banged up because he did play, made a couple catches, obviously showed his ability, you know, so there was no question that, you know, I really feel like if it was Michigan and we were to play, if that was Michigan yesterday, I think everybody plays. So I do think it's just one of those making sure we're as healthy as possible, you know, and the approach to the entire offense all year has kind of been like, obviously a big sign of that's the approach of we want to be as healthy as possible late into November, December, and now late into January. And so I just think that's the goal. And so having a guy like Carnell Tate sit out, being cautious, guys are just a little banged up. Brandon Ennis was hobbling at one point. Julian Sand fell wrong when, you know, a play broke down in the pocket. He was limping a little bit, and it seemed like you said, you know, before the show, we were going to get things going at that point. And then Julian Sand came up hobbling, and it was like, all right, let's slow it back down. Let's just go to the ground and pound, keep it slow, and just beat UCLA in an easily and boring fashion.
Boring fashion, man. I told you I was at the game against Purdue, and my wife and I try to go to one Ohio State game a year. Sometimes we go to Columbus. Sometimes we stay closer to our house and go to one of those games in the area. And we were there, and my goodness, it felt like they were moving at an NFL pace, but it seems slower than an NFL pace, man. This pace is very, very slow. And I'm glad you brought that up, at least the boring part, because before the show, I told you about my thoughts about the 2019 season, where they were just beating everybody, beating the brakes off teams. And you had your starters play maybe 2.5 quarters. You pull them midway through the third, and then you're putting your backups for the rest of the game, where you got your starters. They were playing at the normal pace, the normal tempo, the entire game. You weren't trying to wait until game 10, 11, or 12 to try to put your foot on the gas to ramp things up. Ryan Day's taking an interesting approach this year to be very, very slow and to play the long game. I know he says they're going to put the foot on the gas when they do it. They're going to do it when it's time. We still don't know if they can do that. We still don't know if they can put their foot on the gas, and maybe playing this slow pace, it could cause more injuries for some of your star players.
Yeah, and you know, that's the one thing is like the later it gets into the season and we don't see this next level of this offense that we think can be unlocked if we just go out guns blazing and try and score and put up a bunch of points. But I'm also like, I always be on the side of what if we never need to? Like, Ryan Day says when it's time. Nobody's gonna know a better time. We're fans, right? So we want to see it every Saturday. We want to see if Ohio State doesn't play nobody, we want to see them put up 70 points and Jeremiah Smith have these insane video game numbers. Like that's what we want to see selfishly as fans. But like nobody will know their team, should know their team better than the head coach. And if he goes and his approach is when it's time, the time may never come. Maybe this team is so good that on the road to, they haven't played nobody yet. They haven't been exposed. Maybe there's not a team out there on the road to trying to win a back-to-back national championship that's going to expose them. Maybe there's not going to be a matchup that Ryan Day sees. Everybody thinks it could be the Michigan game. Maybe that's the one and only game where he's like, I'm going to punch this team in the mouth. I'm going to take out all my frustration. They beat me 4 years in a row. And then he's like, maybe we'll go back to business of NFL pace, keep it slow, keep it steady. All we got to do is win, because at the end of the day, the way it's set up, that's all you have to do. You're not graded on style points no more. You don't have to impress the BCS polls no more. You don't have to be looked at as one of the 4 best teams no more. All you have to do is get in, and Ohio State proved that by just getting in last year at 10-2, not playing in the conference championship. Now they set themselves up to be in the conference championship, win the conference championship, be the overall 1 seed, get a first round bye, get all the time off in the world, and rock out. So I just, as much as we want to see it, there may not be a time that comes. And I think we all think it's going to be the Michigan game. I think we all assume that the Michigan game is the game where he's just going to unleash everything that he has in order to beat the brakes off of Michigan to get his, first win in 5 years.
Yeah, I think Ryan Day wants to get his lick back, bro. If I'm Ryan Day, I've never met him, but honestly, man, when I see him talking to the media, or when I see him just out discussing things about Michigan, just football in general, there's a certain look on his eye and look on his face. When Michigan comes up, you can feel the intensity and the fire inside of him start to come out, especially with some of the stuff that happened last year with the planting of the flag on the field and the cops having to come out and separate the players. And that just, I don't think that sits well with Ryan Day. And if that's the one game, Mo, where he has to put his foot down and go all down on the gas and say, let's just beat the brakes off of him, so be it. But he must make sure that he does that with his best players, because I think Tate and Smith are going to play against Michigan. I don't know how healthy they'll be. I think they're going to play. I did get a little nervous when I saw Jeremiah Smith hobbling a little bit. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be out for a long period of time, but you've never really seen him get hobbled at all, walk around with any limp in his walking. So I'm sure he's done it before. I'm sure it's nothing new. But seeing it on a Saturday, it does make the natural person, the human in me, get a little bit nervous. Like, oh, if he's banged up, if Innis is banged up, if Tate's banged up, you got a lot of offensive and defensive linemen that are banged up too.
Yeah, I mean, yes. And that's why I said, like, there were a lot of guys out. CJ Donaldson comes in questionable.
Yep.
There was a lot of conversation. You and me had conversation before the game where I'm like, Jay, you hearing anything about, I'm just seeing a lot of concerns about this Carnell Tate injury and him sitting out last week. And then obviously him being out for back-to-back weeks, but it could just very well be all cautionary. And like, maybe other guys aren't banged up. Like no team is 100% healthy at this point in the season. In college football and NFL, you get to this late into the season in any respective sport and nobody is 100% healthy. And so what Ryan Day's approach was to be as healthy as possible. And there hasn't been no real season-ending injuries from players that you feel like are must-have in order to win a national championship. Guys have sat out a series. Guys have sat out a game. Carnell Tate now 2 games in a row. Jeremiah Smith kind of on a limited snap count and obviously hobbled. But it's just one of those situations where I think, if the game really matters, like I think Jeremiah Smith probably isn't hobbled and isn't limping if he plays his normal snap count, but coming off was also a little bit different if he is a little bit banged up. So that also changes the adrenaline within his body. So I just really think Ryan Day knows what he's doing. Injuries have never been a thing under Ryan Day's belt. Nobody I know they happen, but there's no really like every year somebody major goes down, and that's the story of why Ohio State falls short. So I know Ryan Day knows how to manage this team. I trust the way he's managing this team, and I don't think he would risk beating Michigan at the expense of Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate's health. So I assume if they both suit up for that game and are ready to go, like they're ready to go, and the game plan will be the game plan.
The game plan is a game plan. This past weekend, we got to see some younger receivers step up and show what they can do on the bigger stage. We're going to discuss some of those young guys on the outside after the break. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Once again, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank y'all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. And Mo, we got to see Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter, Bryson Rodgers get some extended playing time. And I mentioned something to you before the show in regards to some of these younger receivers and something Ryan Day did in 2019 that he is no longer doing this year. And it was the pace of play. We remember, I know the 2019 on purpose was his first time being a head coach. And Ryan Day was like, okay, tempo, we got these great players. Let's do it. And it worked to perfection. Almost perfection. I mean, you lost a game to a really good team. So I'm not going to say it was a horrible formula. But, man, you got to see those starters play a half, maybe get into the middle part of the third quarter, they come out. And now you got guys like Mylan Graham and Bryson Rodgers who really haven't played that much significant football because of the pace Ohio State's playing this year. What were your thoughts about how some of those young receivers played this past weekend?
Well, before I talk about the young receivers real quick, it's just because I think injuries there's been one or two where he's had these talented offenses and ran these high pace of play and just let them loose and it will blow these teams out. And I think he refers back to the Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I really feel like he thinks if JSN played that year, like if he was able to come back and play for Ohio State, we win the national championship anyway. That Ohio State, Georgia doesn't come down to all the things that it came down to from, the take back of the targeting play to everything else in between to the kick going wide left. But the young receivers, I think they play really well. Bryson Rodgers got in the end zone. That was something that you always want to see. You want to see these guys. Quincy Porter made a couple good plays. Like Mylan Graham made a couple good catches. Julian Sand did not hesitate to throw to any of those guys when they were open or even if they created a little bit of separation and it was on them to create a catch. So, like, the confidence in Julian Sand to throw his way tells me, like, these guys are former 4- and 5-star wide receivers that are now with Ohio State. Brian Hartline has proved that he develops wide receivers. So, to see these guys be able to make a few plays does make me feel confident that if Carnell Tate's injury specifically was a little more serious than we thought, like I still feel confident that we're deep enough in the wide receiver room that Jeremiah Smith and then the rest of those young guys will be able to get the job done. So I do feel more confident about how deep this wide receiver room is, really, now that I was able to see them step on the field and make some plays.
I think the connection he's going to have with Mylan Graham, that saying I'm speaking of, is going to be one that we're going to be really encouraged with next year, early in the year, because there were some times that Mylan Graham didn't catch the ball, and I just think it was a timing thing. You got a guy that's mainly sitting the bench all season. All of a sudden, he's getting on the field, and Julian Sand throws him the ball. Well, Sand is not used to game reps with this receiver. Sometimes it was a bad throw, or the timing was off. I'm not really worried about that at all. I'm with you. I 100% believe that everyone should be encouraged by them. Bryson Rodgers is a big one because he is kind of like that next guy that if they use a fourth receiver, he's the guy that would be there. And maybe, Mo, this is something I haven't really thought about. Maybe Ryan Day putting his foot on the gas is going 4 wide with 4 receivers against Michigan. I don't know, but if that's the plan, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it. And maybe that was him, trying to see what these guys can do, because that's essentially what everybody is thinking is like, if there's one, Julian Sand is arguably the best quarterback in the country. And if there's one position group on Ohio State that is the deepest in the country. It's the wide receiver room. And so that's kind of what everybody is waiting to see is just bombs over Baghdad of like Julian saying throwing the ball. Just down the field to Jeremiah Smith, underneath the Bryson Rodgers or Brandon Ennis or, Quincy Porter or Mylan Graham, another on the outside, the Carnell Tate. Like these 5, 6, 7 wide receivers that could play and be starters on 90% of, the Power 5 schools. That's what everybody's waiting to see. And so I think that's going to be the way. Spread the ball out and make Michigan have to guard your playmakers. Your playmakers are on the outside. Your playmakers are at your wide receiver position. You can't try and come in here and pace of play this Michigan team. If that's what you're preparing for, you prepared to be undefeated and come for it all against Michigan in their house, then that's how you have to do. You got to make Michigan match you athlete for athlete. And I think that's going to be a tough day for Michigan if that's what Ryan Day decides to do. If he decides to do it the way he's been doing it, he'll end up losing if he tries to play it careful. You just have to go out there guns blazing and let your make teams match you athlete for athlete. That's what you recruited at this wide receiver group. That's what Ohio State takes so much pride in. That's what the talk of the town around the country is the fact that they're wide receiver you. And then the talk of the NFL, you wake up on Sundays and everybody's talking about Ohio State and the receivers because of what the receivers are doing on Sundays. So you get all of these talented guys at this position, let them loose, make these other teams have to guard you and match you athlete for athlete. 99% of the teams in college football can't do that. So I think that's just some of the frustration of why this pace of play is like, that's what we mean by unleash the offense is like, just put all the playmakers out there and make people guard you. Make people have to guard you. And when they can't, you score 50. Easy.
Easily scoring 50 is going to mean the running backs are going to step up in a big way. And I don't think anybody watching this show right now, an Ohio State fan, a Michigan fan, a fan of Alabama, I don't care what you're a fan of. If you watched Ohio State play this past weekend, you have to feel very confident in how the running backs are going to play in a couple of weeks because, man, James Peoples could have mailed it in mentally because he got jumped by a true freshman in Isaiah West. Isaiah West has gotten healthy and he's figured some things out. Bo Jackson's running stronger than he's ran all season. That's without Donaldson, the most experienced running back in the room. But, bro, them three dudes right there, and Peoples, Jackson, and West, they might go crazy against Michigan.
Bro, all you need them to do is what they did on Saturday, and that's keep the defense honest as far as the threat of running the ball. And if you decide to let all your wide receivers loose and your running backs are running where they're getting 6-7 yards every time they touch the ball, they're taking advantage of every hole that opens, and they're able to bust through, and they're able to bounce off a tackle and take a 5-yard run into a 12-yard run, you're going to keep Michigan's defense honest, and now they're going to be mano-a-mano, one-on-one on the outside with your best athletes. That's what you have to do. That's what everybody was wanting to see, and I know it's against UCLA. I understand that, but we haven't really seen that type of performance and that type of confidence in the run game. We don't need them to be the best running back group in the country. We don't need any one of them to individually be the best running back in the country. All we need is for you to be good enough that at any point in time, you are a threat for a big run, and you can always gain positive yards so that you keep the defense honest so that when Julian Sand does drop back, we are at an advantage that these other teams on defense are trying to match us athlete for athlete because they have to stay honest in the box because of our run game.
This is just the beginning of our conversation about the running backs because I have some more thoughts about how this unit is going to impact the game against Michigan. Mo and I will discuss that after the break. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Guys, we're nearing the end of another exciting college football season, and I've loved every second of it. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives you advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, and download Game Time today. So, Mo, this unit, the running backs, the three that I just mentioned, man, they're building confidence at the right time of year, especially James Peoples, a guy that I think down the road is going to be needed to get crucial yards. May it be a 4th and 2 and you need 3, or maybe it's a screen pass on 2nd and 12 and he takes it for 22. You're going to need these young guys, especially Peoples, to be big against Michigan because Michigan's going to try to do everything they can to stop the run. I don't think they have an answer for the outside, but if they stop the run, that may mess up Julian Sands' mentals and it may play into Michigan's hands. But with the way these guys are playing and with the way the offensive line is maneuvering things and playing currently, and I don't know if there's a way for Michigan to slow these guys down because you used the word previously, it's efficient. Maybe they've been efficient the entire time.
Yeah, and that's what. After seeing that on Saturday, that's what makes this Ohio State offense look so tough because at the end of the day, everybody respects Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith and their big playability and that they're probably arguably two of, if not the two best wide receivers in college football. And everybody respects Julian saying as far as understanding that he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football and he's been performing as such. But this running back room being able to, like, when you have a run game and you have a top tier quarterback and already a top tier pass game, and you're able to run the ball, and if you become a major threat at running the ball, you become almost an impossible team to stop because there's not, especially when you're talking about in college football, when you're able to do it athlete for athlete, you're talking about some of the best athletes in the country. Everybody's not lined up to be able to match that. So when you're able to open it up and you have to keep honest of the run game. So like that's the one thing Ohio State is missing. Like if they had Quinshawn Judkins back for another year, or Travion Henderson for one more year, like this offense would be top tier and it would be undeniable. So like to have, okay, we're just doing it differently. We're doing it running back by committee. Whatever the opinion is of who should get majority of the carries, at the end of the day, like everybody has had effective carries, efficient carries, and mostly positive yards. We don't get knocked backwards too many times. So that's a plus side of we've had middle of the season. We had a lot of questions about this run game. I don't think we have as many. And I think we have the answer to do it by just give the hot hand the ball and just kind of spice it up and don't just stick to one running back.
What are your thoughts about Brandon Ennis right now?
I mean, to me, bro, Brandon Ennis is very similar to like what's his name that went to Penn State? Julian
Fleming?
Fleming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's very similar to Julian Fleming, where like he was a captain, he was a stable, everybody loves him. But like, bro, Brandon Ennis really, like yesterday was his opportunity to put up 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like you're supposed to be the third guy. Jeremiah Smith was playing limited minutes. Like everybody's been waiting for this big time performance from you. You're a former 5-star. You've been, waiting your turn. You've been in it behind. And it's just like with all these other guys, Quincy Porter looking good when he touches the ball, Mylan Graham. Like, I'd rather some of these younger guys than Brandon Ennis. No diss to Brandon Ennis. I know he's a captain. I know he's a glue guy. I know he was there with the national championship team last year. But he's just been underwhelming as far as for expectations. And even this year, like, he doesn't even have a game where you just look at Brandon Ennis and be like, that's why he's still in the rotation. Like where you see flashes of like Quincy Porter these past couple weeks getting a couple catches, like that's the guy where you're like, we need to give him some more minutes. And like, you're not looking at Carnell Tate, you're not looking at Jeremiah Smith as far as being ineffective in the pass game. But the one guy that you are week in and week out is Brandon Ennis. And you got these other guys that when you insert Quincy Porter, insert Mylan Graham, they make things happen. And Brandon Ennis just doesn't make things happen enough for me. And yesterday was like his opportunity at home to be able to make that happen. Like he should have had 100 plus yards, a touchdown or 2 yesterday. Neither one of those things happened.
I got 2 things for you. One of them, I 100% agree with everything you said. That was his opportunity to play big and to show up. Even the week before when Tate didn't play against Purdue, he could have had a big game. That was your time to shine. He just didn't do it. I have been waiting all season to see this explosive running style that they say he has. Not like a running back, but like you get in out of your break, you get the ball, and you explode, or there's a major burst. I haven't seen it. So I don't know if the evaluators are wrong, if he's lost a step, I don't know what's happened. But I have not seen this major burst that I was told I was going to see when he gets the ball in his hand. And I think that impacts him when in the return game. Him not getting it done in a big way, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns as receiver, and then seeing Lorenzo Styles go back there, catch the ball, 2 yards deep in the end zone, and then goes for a return to a touchdown on a kickoff, that doesn't make Innis look the best because he struggled returning all season long. I don't know if he can track the ball properly. I don't know if he's a little nervous about where the defenders are coming because he's not looking at them. He's trying to get the ball. I have no idea. But, man, if there's one switch I think with Ennis you need to make, if you want to put him out there on the offense for the mental sake or the perimeter blocking on the outside, cool. Put somebody else back there to return kickoffs and punts because that's one area that I think he kind of holds you back in, that you have enough elite athletes on that team to have them guys return kickoffs and punts and return them for touchdowns.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And then, like you refer back to the Lorenzo Styles taking it to the crib yesterday, just kind of confirmed everything that you said, everything that we've been seeing. And, it was just funny to see that. And I was thinking about the fact you said this on the show a couple weeks ago, the same thing about trying to spice up the return game. And not that you want it, but you were like, I don't want to do it by Jeremiah Smith being back there.
Right.
That seems to be the answer. It'd be like, if it's not Brandon Ennis, you'll mess around and it's number 4. Waving his hand up there for a fair catch and a punt return. And it's like, well, we got way too many athletes for me to put my number 1 go-to guy back there returning punts. But there's got to be a change. And like you said, as soon as Lorenzo Styles touched that ball yesterday, he took it to the crib. You got Mylan Graham. You got Quincy Porter. Typically it's usually one of your receivers got to be a little more effective. And honestly, it might be a way of keeping these guys at Ohio State and out of the transfer portal. You're a special teams guy, but it's just, we just finding a way. We're so deep in this position, but we're trying to find a way to put the ball in your hands. And I think that's what they're doing with Brandon Ennis, is just trying to get him to find some confidence somewhere in the offense and make a play. And it's just not working.
What about Caleb Downs, bro?
I'm not in the whole business of my star player returning punts. Caleb Downs can make it happen too, but I don't want Jeremiah Smith. I don't want Caleb Downs. I don't want them to decide that Arvell Reese is an athletic freak enough to start returning punts. No, I don't. My key guys, my number 1 and number 2 wide receiver, my number 1 running back, I don't want none of my corners I don't want none of those guys. Really, I don't want a starter really returning punts, especially when you're talking about Ohio State and you're so deep athletically, you don't need one of your top tier guys returning punts. You have an elite athlete back there that you don't have to have somebody that is so important to this rotation into a national championship in a sense.
The only other guy that I think I would add to that is Bryson Rodgers. I'm a big Mylan Graham fan. I think Quincy Porter could be good. His frame might be too big for Ohio State wants from a return guy. I have no idea. But I think Bryson Rodgers is one of those guys, talking about a guy that you want to keep at Ohio State. He's going to be a starter next year. Put him back there, let him return kickoffs and punts. Let him get his feet wet. Let him show off what he can do with the ball in his hand, show off his vision and his ability to weave in and out of traffic. I think that's another one. But I'm going to close with this. If they are to make a change in the return game, like a permanent change, should they do it against Rutgers or wait to do it against Michigan?
You got to do it against Rutgers.
I'm with you.
Go ahead and do it and stop the bleeding. In a sense, make the change. I'm never for making changes in games that matter. And I'm not saying that Rutgers don't matter. I'm not saying this is the look ahead game, but when you can blow a team out, that's when you try things. You don't try things in a game that this means everything to you. You don't want to figure out that whatever change that you made, you don't want it to blow up in your face at the wrong time. So you do it against Rutgers, where you see a couple times, and at the end of the day, whatever you decide to do on Saturday should be enough at home against Rutgers on senior day to beat them. You don't want to go on the road against Michigan in Ann Arbor and be trying things. You want to do everything that you know is going to work in order to beat this team. And so I don't want to be making any special team changes or whatever going into the last game of the season for whatever reason.
Last thing I'll say here, and I'm going to open it up to you in a second, but I think that if there's any change really out defensively, because we don't really touch on the defense very much as far as changes they need to make. Man, they got to get after the quarterback a whole lot more. Because that's one area, maybe you're saving the blitzes for Michigan. I don't know. But, man, there are times this past weekend where they had that backup quarterback from UCLA who looked pretty good for his first start. I'm not trying to say,
Mhm.
but I think of all the backup quarterbacks Ohio State's played this year, I think, is going to have the most promise, especially when you find that on short notice you're going to be throwing your first pass of your career in college. So I think he did better than I thought he was going to. But, man, get after the quarterback. You have to get after the quarterback because you don't want to go up going against Michigan and not have done extreme blitzes 3 or 4 weeks in a row and then try it like you said. That's the wrong time. But I want to see these guys get after the quarterback all day long. So you're not trying to do something and try to use a new muscle you haven't used in a few months. No, do that now, put it on film, and then put fear in Michigan's eyes.
Yeah, I did have a problem with the fact we should have left out of that game with 5, 6, 7
Yep.
sacks as a
Yep.
team. Like, so to have what would you say? One, none?
I don't know how many they had. It
I
wasn't
think,
a lot.
well, I don't think we had any. Like, there was a point late in the fourth quarter where when UCLA had sacked Julian Sayin on the play, that was their first sack of the game, and we didn't have one. So I would have loved to seen 6, 7 sacks. Like, getting to the quarterback against UCLA. I want to see us get to the quarterback against Rutgers. Like you said, like you use these games as like some fear tactics for Bryce Underwood to try and have to understand that just because you run out of this pocket, because Bryce Underwood has escapability. Bryce Underwood
Yes,
is
he does.
deadly with his legs. So like you want a guy like that to hesitate when he's back there in the pocket, knowing that you can bring a lot of pressure and knowing that you can make a lot of plays negative. So when you're not putting pressure on that quarterback, that's where you're gonna run into a guy that's good enough to beat you at some point. Like we're talking about grand scheme of things trying to win a national championship. So you're going to run into a guy that can beat you at some point. If you're not putting pressure on that guy and he's one of the better guys in the country, then that guy is going to end up beating you and able to pick apart the rest of your defense. So you have to get pressure on the quarterback. That is the key to everything. You can't depend on your secondary and everything, because at some point, like we are going to start seeing teams that they can't necessarily match us athlete for athlete, but they're not that far off on offense or defense.
He is Mo Murphy. He's the host of the Coach Mo Murphy podcast. Follow him on X at Coach Mo Murphy. You can follow me on the same platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. We're up out of here on a Monday, Buckeye fans. We'll see you next time.